The Rootless Ones, the gilded cage in the fields below. In the emerald glades of Elerinith, where the white towers of the elven lords speared the sky like frozen lightning, where their halls rang with songs older than kingdoms, and where their hands, fine as porcelain, touched only silk and steel, there was a boy who did not belong. Ladros Silvaniel, heir to the Westwind estate, son of Lord Sildorian and Lady Elowyn, was meant for greater things. His elders wove his future like a tapestry of gold and starlight, a match to strengthen ties with the Everdorns, a place on the High Council, and a lifetime of honeyed duty. Yet Ladros, ever defiant, looked not to the elven courts but to the vales and meadows where the low-born folk of his father's land toiled, dwarves with soot-stained beards, humans with sun-bronzed hands, and halflings who hummed while they ploughed. It was there, in the shade of the barley fields and along the bubbling brooks, that Ladros found a second home. They were young when they met. Tamar, the blacksmith's daughter, with hair like burning embers and laughter that made even weary men grin. Fendrick, a dwarf with calloused hands and a voice rough as gravel but warm as mead. And Waylin, the barefoot halfling with a knack for mischief and a heart bigger than his small frame allowed. They played in the dirt, they carved their names into tree trunks, they searched for bugs, they stole apples from orchards and swore oaths beneath the summer moon. And among them, unseen and unspoken at first, was Isilvaeth, Ledros's second cousin. She was the fairest of the Elerinith maidens, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, raised on poetry and duty, yet drawn against all warnings to the laughter of her wayward Cos and his strange companions. In secret, she followed them into the world below the towers, where no elves dared go, and in secret she deeply loved Tamar, and she, also in secret, did the same. But secrets are fragile things. The poison of blood and custom. The whispers started when Ledros was seen too often among the lesser folk. The elders watched, they disapproved, but they still called it a child's folly, until folly became scandal. One night, at a midsummer gathering of elves and nobles, a drunken young lord, one who had long resented Ladros for his charm and defiance, called him a mud-lover before the court. Ladros struck him, split his lip, and was called to account before his father. "You shame us," Lord Sildorian said. "You shame yourself," Ladros answered. The punishment was swift. Ladros was forbidden from the fields, locked behind marble doors, made to study, to train, to learn the ways of his kind. Isilvaeth was betrothed to another lord's son, a match to bind the bloodlines, to cement alliances, to erase the stain of unseemly affections. Tamar, Fendrick and Waylin waited. And when the doors finally opened, when Ledros fled his cage in the dead of night, they were waiting. Isilvaeth came too, veiled and silent, her heart an arrow loosed long ago. They ran, hearts pounding, eyes alight with a fool's dream, that they could live as they pleased, free from duty, free from the heavy hand of elven custom. They thought they had outrun the past. They had not, they could not. A love carved in loss. Ledros and Isilvaeth built their farm in the shadow of a great forest, far from the reach of their kind. A home of wood and stone, where Fendrick forged iron, Waylin tended the land, and Tamar laughed with the wind while she painted and made the strangest contraptions. They lived, they thrived, even as the years crept past them. Fendrick died first, a wound that festered, a sickness that even Tamar's skilled hands could not cure. Then Waylin, peacefully in his sleep, with the smell of the earth still clinging to him. Tamar lingered, stubborn and strong, for her love was born from a tempered heart over the many years, until even she could fight no more. Ladros and Isilvaeth buried them side by side beneath the great oak sapling they had planted together, weeping not just for their fallen friends and lost lovers, but for the cruelty of time itself. Then, for many years, it was just the two of them, Ladros and Isilvaeth, bound by sorrow, bound by shared love, bound by ghosts. The kindness of the dead, the cruelty of the living. They should have expected vengeance. When the riders came, the banners of House Silvaniel whipping in the wind, the lovers did not run. The lord and lady of Elerinith were long dead. It was Isilvaeth's uncle and cousin who came for them now, their eyes bright with malice, their hearts full of old wounds and grudges left to rot. "You chose this end. You were merely lucky your father was soft," the uncle spat. "Your dilution will be suffered no longer. Cos," the nephew roared. Lethros fought. He fought as a swordsman born of elven nobility, as a warrior honed by hardship, but age had found him, and the fire in his limbs was now far dimmed. They beat him bloody, pinned him to the ground as Isilvaeth screamed. Lethros screamed as they began to break him limb by limb, all the while threatening the same to Isilvaeth in between his own groans. And then they went to the graves. The sapling had grown tall, strong, proud, a monument to love and loss. The uncle placed a foot upon the earth and muttered a cleansing prayer, as if their gods listened or cared, while the nephew, along with his grunts, struggled to wrench the sapling from the ground, roots and all, to cast it down. To defile a grave, to kill a growing thing, was a great malefaction among their kind, a sin of great import. But there were no elders here to chastise them, only the whispers of the trees and the sorrowful cries of ghosts. Isilvaeth broke then, not from pain, but from the depthless cruelty of it. "You have proven nothing," she whispered, "only that you are lesser than the dead." They did not kill them. They did not need to. They left them with broken bones and shattered hearts, and they rode away laughing, leaving the grave open, the sapling dead, the survivors hollow. Years passed, decades. The farm withered. The house fell to ruin. They lived on, but they did not rebuild the grave, nor dare replant the tree. They lived in silence, in grief, in the shadow of something lost. And one day, when the last leaf had fallen, when their bodies ached with the weight of centuries, they lay down beside the earth that had once been sacred, and they waited for time to claim them too. When they were gone, the trunk that had fallen rerooted. It struggled and fed on the remains of the 5 companions. They became the grove on the hill where in time, outside of the purview of gilded towers, more would find their own refuge. And in Elarinith, among the high lords and golden halls, no one spoke of them, for in the end no one remembers the Rootless Ones.